There is a moment in a relationship that many women experience, but almost no one prepares them for. Nothing dramatic has happened. There is no confession, no message discovered, no undeniable proof. And yet, something feels different. Maybe he has been slightly distant lately. Maybe his routine has quietly changed. Maybe he suddenly guards his phone more carefully than before. Maybe his explanations feel a little too polished, a little too perfect. You cannot point to one clear thing, but deep inside, your intuition keeps whispering that something is not the same anymore. And that quiet feeling can be deeply unsettling, because when there is no clear proof, the mind begins searching for answers. You replay small moments in your head. You think about conversations that felt slightly strange. You remember nights when his tone felt colder than usual. You start noticing patterns that you once ignored. But even then, there is still uncertainty, and that uncertainty creates tension. Most people react to this feeling in the same way. Emotion rises faster than reason. The moment suspicion appears, the urge to confront becomes almost irresistible. So people ask direct accusations. Are you cheating on me? Who were you texting last night? Why are you acting so strange lately? Why do you keep hiding your phone? In that moment, confrontation feels powerful. It feels like taking control of the situation. It feels like finally forcing the truth to come out. But something interesting happens the second an accusation is spoken. The entire environment changes. The moment he realizes you suspect something, his mind immediately shifts into defense. And once someone enters a defensive state, the conversation is no longer about truth. It becomes about protection. Stories become cleaner. Details become adjusted. Explanations become carefully constructed. Anything that might expose the truth quietly disappears behind logic, excuses, and perfectly rehearsed responses. The small window where the truth might have revealed itself naturally suddenly closes. And once that window closes, it becomes much harder to see what is really happening. This is why calm thinking is far more powerful than emotional reaction. The Stoics understood something about human behavior that most people overlook. When you stay calm, people reveal themselves. When you react emotionally, they hide. Emotional reactions create resistance. Calm observation creates clarity. So if you suspect he might be cheating, do not accuse him immediately. Do something much more powerful instead. Ask 3 simple questions and then say nothing else. No anger, no long speeches, no accusations, just the questions. Because the power of these questions is not in forcing the truth.
It is in observing how the truth responds to pressure. The first question creates a quiet psychological pressure that most people do not expect. The question is simple. Is there anything you want to tell me before I hear it from someone else? At first glance, this question may seem almost harmless, but psychologically, it introduces something very powerful: uncertainty. Notice what makes this question so effective. You are not accusing him. You are not presenting evidence. You are not raising your voice. Instead, you introduce a possibility that someone else may already know something. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as evidence pressure. The moment this question is asked, the mind immediately begins searching for danger. Inside his head, silent questions begin to appear. What does she know? Did someone see something? Did a message get exposed? Did someone say something? Did someone tell her? Even if you have absolutely no proof at all, his imagination begins filling in the gaps. And human imagination is powerful. People who are hiding something often fear the possibility that their secret has already been discovered. So when this question is asked calmly, something interesting often happens. Many people begin revealing small pieces of the truth. Not the whole story, just small fragments.
Psychologists sometimes call this the trickle truth effect. Instead of denying everything completely, a person may release just enough information to test what you already know. You might suddenly hear something like, "Why would you even ask that? Did someone say something to you? Where did you hear that from? What exactly do you think you know?" Notice something important. They are not answering the question. They are trying to discover how much information you already have. But watch carefully. The most important information does not appear in the words. It appears in the silence. The pause before the response, the sudden shift in eye contact, the nervous movement of the hands, the hesitation that did not exist before. A calm mind notices these signals. An angry mind misses them. This is why emotional discipline is so powerful in difficult conversations, because when you remain calm, people reveal more than they intend to. Now, the second question tests something much deeper than the first. It does not focus on pressure. Instead, it focuses on memory, because there is a powerful psychological difference between remembering something and inventing something. Real memories are flexible. When something truly happens, the brain stores the experience from different angles. Sounds, images, emotions, small details that occurred throughout the event. Because of this, real memories can be recalled from different angles. People can remember the middle first. They can jump to the end. They can move back and forth through the experience without much difficulty. But when someone constructs a story instead of remembering it, the brain usually stores it differently. It stores the story like a script: beginning, middle, end. A carefully organized sequence designed to sound believable. And when that sequence is disrupted, the structure begins to shake. So the second question is this: can you walk me through last night again, but start from the end and move backward? At first, this request may sound unusual, but there is a powerful psychological reason behind it. Investigators often use this technique when evaluating the reliability of a story, because reversing the timeline forces the brain to process information differently. If he is simply recalling a real memory, reversing the order may feel slightly strange, but still possible. He might pause briefly to think, but the story will remain stable. However, if the story has been carefully constructed, the brain suddenly struggles. You might notice longer pauses, sentences restarting halfway through, small details becoming unclear, moments where the timeline suddenly becomes blurry. You might hear responses like, "Wait, let me think. Actually, I think that happened earlier. No, sorry, that was before that." This confusion does not necessarily prove deception, but it does reveal something important. The story is being rebuilt in real time. And when a story must constantly be rebuilt, it becomes much harder to keep it consistent. Again, the goal is not to trap someone with aggression. The goal is to observe how stable the story remains when the natural order disappears. Truth usually survives from any direction. A fabricated story rarely does. Now, the third question focuses on something even more revealing than words or memory. It focuses on time. Every real experience moves through time like a continuous thread. Morning becomes afternoon. Afternoon becomes evening. Events unfold in a natural sequence. When people remember genuine experiences, that thread usually remains connected. But when someone hides something inside a story, the timeline often develops gaps, moments that feel strangely unclear, periods of time that seem difficult to explain. Sometimes these gaps are small, just a few minutes. Sometimes they're longer, an hour that suddenly feels difficult to describe. So the third question is very simple. Was there any moment last night when you weren't completely sure what you were doing? Notice again that this question carries no accusation. You are not saying he did something wrong. You are not claiming anything happened. You are simply asking about the structure of the timeline. And that small shift matters more than most people realize. Because when someone is telling the truth, the answer usually comes naturally. They might say they were driving, watching something, talking to a friend, scrolling through their phone. Even if the details are ordinary, the flow of time feels natural. But when someone is protecting a sensitive moment, the response often changes. You may hear uncertain language. Maybe, I guess, I'm not completely sure, I don't remember exactly. The explanation might become strangely vague. Instead of clear moments, the story becomes blurry. Over time, I've learned something important about human behavior. People can change details, they can adjust stories, they can reframe explanations, but time is very difficult to reshape once events have already happened. Time moves in one direction, and when someone struggles to explain how that time was spent, the timeline often reveals where the truth begins to weaken. By now, you may notice something important about these three questions. None of them involve shouting, none of them involve accusations, and none of them force someone into a corner. Instead, they do something much more powerful. They quietly test whether a story can survive pressure. Because the truth rarely reveals itself through dramatic confessions, real life is rarely that simple. More often, the truth appears in the smallest signals, the pause before an answer, the sudden change in posture, the hesitation where certainty should exist, the moment when someone looks away instead of meeting your eyes. These signals are easy to miss when emotions take control, but they become very clear when the mind remains calm. This is why the Stoics believed emotional discipline was not weakness, it was awareness. It was the ability to observe reality without being controlled by it. Because when anger takes over, perception becomes distorted. You hear what you want to hear. You ignore what you should notice. But when you remain calm, something different happens. You begin to see clearly. And once you have the answers, another decision quietly arrives, a difficult one, but an important one. You must choose the direction of your own life. Sometimes the path forward is rebuilding trust. Sometimes it means having honest conversations and repairing what has been damaged. But sometimes the path forward is different. Sometimes it means recognizing that your peace, your dignity, and your self-respect deserve something better. And walking away is not weakness. Sometimes it's the strongest decision a person can make. Because a relationship built on uncertainty and deception slowly drains the mind and the heart. But a person who respects themselves refuses to live inside that uncertainty forever. They choose clarity. They choose peace. They choose a life where trust does not have to be forced. And that choice always begins with awareness. The awareness to observe carefully, the patience to ask the right questions, and the courage to accept whatever truth those answers reveal. If this perspective helped you see difficult situations more clearly, take a moment to support the channel. Like the video. Share it with someone who might need to hear this message. And subscribe if you want more content on emotional intelligence, psychological awareness, and living life with quiet strength and clarity.